design streetlights so people at night can see and get around. We also manage traffic with our design so more people can get around and they don't have to wait too long. We also have one more thing that's called Vision Zero, and we make sure that we design things the best we can, with our goal being that no one ever gets hurt or in an accident. So every day, next slide, I work in street lighting. We design the streetlights so cars, bikes, and people can use the road at night. We make sure that there are enough lights on the road and that they are bright enough so everyone can see. Right now, we're also changing our streetlights from older bulbs to light-emitting diodes or LED, and these let you see much better and save electricity and the environment. You can see the photo, the difference between the old bulb and the LED. Now, you may think that streetlights are limited to only light, but there's lots of other things we can do with them. We're working on what's called Smart City. That means connecting you, cars, buses, and all sorts of things to transportation to the internet. We're working with cell phone companies to install 5G antennas on streetlights so that your cell phone has a fast connection everywhere you go. If you don't have a cell phone, we're also working on putting free Wi-Fi on streetlight poles. These poles can also connect to cars and send messages and warnings if there's something unsafe in the road. We're also working on putting electric car chargers right on the streetlight poles so more people can charge when they park and drive electric cars.
So now I'm going to share with you what I do as a civil engineer. So in general, any engineering project has three main phases: planning, design, and construction. I'm mostly working in the first phase, which is planning. And what does planning mean? So imagine you are actually preparing a poster for one of your school assignments. Well, you need to know your topic very well, so you will do some research. And also you would need to know what tools you would need. So you make a list of everything that you may need and how much money you need to borrow from your parents in order to buy those tools. And when is your presentation and who will be your audience? Is that only your class or other people from other classes will join to see your presentation? So they are all factors that you have to plan ahead in order to make your presentation very well, which is very similar to civil engineering field. So for every project, we have to know our project area very well. We need to know how much budget we have and also when is the deadline for this project. And also in every civil engineering project, we can incorporate transportation planning, which is part of my daily tasks. So what is transportation planning? Let me provide you some examples for some of our projects. So imagine there are some potholes in some part of the cities in some streets. So as civil engineers, we have to identify those street and we have to initiate a project team to plan ahead and design and construct a new pavement in this segment of the street. Also, we have this great pavement database in public work that we can keep track of the condition of pavement in all over the LA County, which is amazing. And based on the budget, we can go out there and pave the street. Also, imagine we are building a new shopping center. So it's not about constructing a new building. We also have to make sure that it's accessible to all the people and everyone who wants to come to this shopping center, or if we are building a new house in here. So as a civil engineer, we have to check the existing condition of the street and make sure that it's accessible for everyone. Also, if imagine there is traffic congestion in some part of the city. So we as a civil engineer have to do a lot of research and go out there, do some study to see how we can address this issue. Can we install a new traffic signal? Can we install a traffic signal? And case by case, our solution may be different. And also we have to make sure that our project is beneficial for all the users. You just mentioned that you may walk to school or library, you may ride your bike to school, your parents may drop you by their cars at the school, or you may use public transportation, which are buses or subway system. So as a civil engineer, we have to make sure our projects are beneficial for all the users and safe and accessible. And this is actually a great picture that can demonstrate our goals. So in transportation field, we want to make sure that our projects are accessible for pedestrians. As you can see in this picture, pedestrians are safely using this sidewalk and crossing the street. There is dedicated bike lane for the bicyclists who can ride their bike in here, and there is actually some barricade in here that can separate the bike lane from the travel lanes. And there are cars here, and also there is a separated transit lane in here that the public transit can use it solely for their use. And also as civil engineer, we have to be always flexible to changes and always be creative in providing new ideas and projects. A great example, recently pandemic happened. A lot of us didn't have to go to school and we could learn or work from home. So we didn't really have to use our cars. Instead, a lot of us started riding a bike or riding a bike or walking to very close distances. So what happened that a lot of great engineers in public work came up with this idea of slow street. What does that mean? It means that we would install signs in residential street and let the driver know that to slow down. There are a lot more pedestrians and bicyclists in this area, and make sure that you make the area safe for them as they're walking and riding and enjoying a great day.
So now that you know a little bit about engineering and what we do, maybe you're curious about how we got here. So again, I went to the University of Michigan for an engineering school, and it was because I loved always being creative. I joined a lot of student design teams, um, solar car team being one of them, where we designed a solar-powered vehicle for races, and we competed in America as well as the world. Another thing about my school experience is that I was always a B student in math. And the reason I say that is because even though you don't have to be the best at math to become an engineer. As long as you have a strong interest and a desire, the dedication will take you a long way. I also participated in what's called internships, where you try out working at a company for a little bit and figure out what line of work they do and to see if you like it or not. I did this at the United States Environmental Protection Agency, where I learned a lot about conservation and water quality.
The path actually that I took is slightly different. Actually, math was my favorite subject. As I mentioned that I was very interested to become a problem solver. So instead of memorizing things, it was my great strength to see the problem and just start solving the question. Maybe I wasn't really interested in memorizing things. But I really enjoyed math, so there was no question for me that I would like to become an engineer in the near future. And when I got accepted in an engineering school, I was very engaged in engineering clubs, which I really recommend to all the students to be involved in their community that they're interested in their school. For instance, in these engineering clubs, I really understood what I want to do when I graduate from school and what career I want to choose for rest of my professional life. And similar to Victor, I got some internship in private company and in public sector, which would help me to decide what I want to do.
So why would you want to become a civil engineer? The big thing for me is that we're making a difference in our community. Working at Public Works and working on the traffic signals and the streets and all the things that you use every day, we're really making a difference, and it makes you feel good that you're helping people. We're also part of a team, so of course Roya and I aren't alone. We all work together, and we help each other to achieve our goals, and that's always nice.
And also being a problem solver, it's on a daily basis is just great. Every day you see the problem and you want to come up with solution, and it's such a great experience on a daily basis. Also, as a civil engineer, we have to be creative. I just provided an example regarding what happened during the pandemic. So it helped us to come with new idea and help the community. Also, almost every day in engineering field, you have to learn new things. And I was just recently talking with a coworker, and we just discussed that in a past couple of years, every day we are learning something new that makes our job more interesting.
So that is our presentation. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat or you can email us. Our emails are up on the slide. There's also a QR code if you'd like to take a survey following our presentation, and I believe that will also be emailed out.
That was great. Thank you, everyone. That was amazing. I learned so much. Again, if you guys have any questions or any comments, go ahead and add it in the chat. I would love to tell our guests about your questions. And I do have a question of my own. As a librarian, which are your favorite books about engineering?
So one of my favorite books that really inspires people to be engineers is Rosie Revere, Rosie Revere, the engineer. I'm confusing names, but it's a great pictures book, and it goes through a journey of how this little girl would like to become an engineer, and she discovers that. And there's a whole series of different topics and different careers. So even if you don't want to be an engineer, there's lots of STEM careers that you can consider.
Yes, yes. I've read that book before, and it is a lovely book. I love the pictures in it. So that's a good one. Roya, do you have a favorite book?
Actually, it's an interesting question because I have two young nephews, and recently I was just doing some shopping for the holidays. So I came across this book called Bernstein Bear's Big Book of Science and Nature. And I found it very interesting. It has a lot of good reviews, and I just purchased them for my nephew. I hope they like it.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome. So we do have another question. What has been one of the most challenging projects that, if there's a project that you had to work on, like how did you deal with the challenge, or like dealing with a mistake or something like that?
Sure. One of the recent projects that I'm working on that I mentioned earlier was the deployment of 5G in LA County on our streetlight poles. So the challenge was that this is very, I guess, cutting edge or new in this deployment, and we had to negotiate and work with the carriers. Of course, not every carrier the same. Verizon, AT&T, and we had to craft agreements with each of them, and that was really challenging because as an engineer, I'm not used to dealing with lawyers and legal speak, but I learned a lot, and that's the thing about being an engineer is that you're given the resources and skills to become a problem solver. So when you are faced with something that you don't usually do, you can usually break it down, think about it rationally, and figure out solutions.
That's great. Yeah, I deal with that on a daily basis. I work with other people in different libraries, I go to outreach and I meet new people, and I'm working with coordinators. And yes, it's always something different, but it's all about problem solving. So thank you. Thank you for that, Victor. Roya?
I would say I had this big project installing a traffic signal at 8 intersection in one of the city in LA County. And it was sort of in beginning of my career. And actually, I should say that is great thing about civil engineering, that in very early on of your career, you may have to accept big responsibilities, which are great. I mean, which people who are interested to learn quickly. That's great. So I was assigned to this project, and that was very interesting because I wasn't, for instance, familiar with a lot of traffic signal related equipment. So it was such a big learning experience for me. So at the beginning, it was very scary for me because, like I mentioned, it was sort of beginning of my career. But now looking back, I'm so happy that I was selected to be sort of in charge of that project, and I learned a lot. And just it's good to be always, I just want to emphasize that always be open to be a problem solver and learn every day.
You brought up an important thing, facing your fear. I love that. I remember when I first started doing these live events, I was so nervous. I still get nervous, but yeah, you got to face your fears because you just never know what opportunities are out there. When I first started as a librarian and I was doing story time, or when I was doing my first programs, like I was nervous, but yeah, you got to face your fears because I love what I do. And I love to hear you guys how much you love your job too. And that's why we're doing these programs. So I have one other question. What street feature like bridge or structure is your favorite?
I'll go. My favorite is the roundabout.
The roundabout.
It's not very common here in California, but I believe there's some in Long Beach and some in Pasadena. But I just love the way it works, and cars can go without stopping, and it just flows. And it kind of reminds me of water, in the way that it just goes so smooth. And I believe roundabouts could solve a lot of problems, especially with traffic in LA, and we need more of them.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. We don't have that many, but I remember I took a road trip to Arizona and I ran into a few roundabouts. And I remember the first time I was like, oh no, what do I do? But once I got the hang of it, I was like, this is actually pretty cool. So yeah, thank you, Victor. What about you, Roya?
I would say I just mentioned that my most challenging project was traffic signal, and as I mentioned, I learned a lot. So I still think that I could never imagine that I would become so interested in traffic signal subject. But like I say, it was kind of, I learned so much, and I never could imagine that there are a lot into it. I mean, before I was like, okay, there are lights change from green to red and change all the colors. So, but when I learned a lot more about all the system, all the efforts behind the signal timing, I become a lot more interested. And especially it felt great after our project. You can see how the traffic flow is a lot smoother, and how people, how everything is more accessible and traffic is reduced. It feels great. So I still feel that traffic signal project would be my favorite.
Awesome. Well, thank you both of you for joining us today. And thank you everyone for attending today's event. Please check out our webpage for all future events at lacountylibrary.org. Also check out our YouTube channel for amazing videos. And yes, we will be sending out a survey about today's program. We would love to hear more from you guys so we can work on future events. And I'm so excited about what's to come, because thinking about how street signs first started and what you guys mentioned about smart devices out there, I'm very excited about what's to come. So thank you again, and I'll see you guys for a future event. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.